Well, you've just mentioned several different issues. Now, do you think recalling Zuma is the solution to this, or is there a bigger problem here that needs to be addressed?
I think recalling Zuma is symbolically the most effective way for the ANC to show the people of South Africa that when it says it's against corruption, it means it. It is a great way to walk the walk rather than talk the talk. There is a bigger underlying problem, and that is that the value system of the Constitution, this idea of multi-party democracy under the rule of law, where we promote human dignity, where we seek to achieve equality between the people in the country and the enjoyment of their freedoms, with an independent judiciary, independent media like you, and separation of powers between the various parts of the government. All of that is what we created in the new South Africa back in 1994. The value system according to which some of the people in the governing alliance work, and President Zuma is certainly one of them, is that what is required is a one-party state without separation of powers, in which the party has control of all of the levers of power in society. No free media, no independent judiciary, no effective Chapter 9 institutions, just this hegemonic control of the levers of power in a one-party state. And until that underlying problem is sorted out, this type of activity is going to continue, because multi-party democracy under the rule of law is really not acceptable to people who don't subscribe to our constitutional value system. What we need is to persuade enough people that it's not good for the country, it's not good for our economy, it's not good for tourism, direct foreign investment, to do anything other than to uphold the rule of law, the protection of property rights, and the constitutional dispensation that is embodied in our current constitution. That is the bigger problem. The difficulties that we are facing at the moment with President Zuma are not going to play themselves out with this petition. I think that the petition will be ignored at least until election day. If at the election the ANC loses a lot of support because enough people are sufficiently displeased not to support them in the same numbers as they supported them in the past, then it is quite possible that the leadership, the National Executive Committee of the ANC, will use Jacob Zuma as the scapegoat for the loss, and they'll drop him like a hot potato because of the reduction in support. Of course, the other side of the coin is if they do as well as or better than before, then obviously this contrary value system as embodied by President Zuma is the way that the majority of people in South Africa want to go, and we can look forward to sliding off all of the scales of corruption, economic activity. There's a little example just north of the Limpopo. It's called Zimbabwe. And that's the direction in which we will head if we do not respect, maintain, uphold, nurture the constitutional order that we all agreed on in 1994. That's the real inwardness of the problem. So this petition is an opportunity for expression of displeasure with a compromised and conflicted candidate in the form of Jacob Zuma. That will play itself out in the electoral college that meets shortly after the election, when our National Assembly gets together for the first time, the newly elected parliamentarians. See, in South Africa, it's not like America. There's no direct election of a president. Our president is drawn from the 400 people who are elected to parliament. They get together as soon as the election is complete under chairmanship of the Chief Justice, who's there to see that everything is done legally and in an orderly way, and they have an election in which candidates are put forward and are voted on. Anybody who gets 201 votes becomes the new president. And in that electoral college, it is probable that one or other or all of the opposition parties will object to Jacob Zuma being the candidate. It's actually quite cynical not to object, but the objection would be based on the fact that the president in South Africa is the key position in our constitutional order. He is both the head of state and the head of the national executive. In other words, he's president and prime minister, or queen and prime minister, if you think of the British example. And the functions and duties that the Constitution requires of the President of South Africa are so important, so difficult to discharge. The President has to swear an oath that he will uphold and maintain the Constitution and the law. And President Zuma, because of his conflicts and the compromised position in which he finds himself, is not in a position to do that. It's just irrational. It's an irrational decision to persist with his candidacy, given all of these horrible things that we've had to talk about, including this recent Nkandla report.